I'm Ingrid. This is my farm. A few weeks ago, we talked about starting seeds indoors so that you could have seedlings to put right into your garden. I wanted to show you what that's looked like in the week since for us as we get those seedlings ready to go outside, transplanted, irrigated, all of that. You can see I've already been to the garden and pulled out some radishes from my lettuce bed. I put them in between my lettuces, and these are French breakfast radishes. They're delicious. Here are the seedlings just 2 weeks after we sowed the seeds. They really had a great germination rate, and we were really happy with how they popped up under these lights.
These are so tall they're touching the light, but the rest of them still need to be very close to the light. I didn't plan this out. We have the same thing here, and those are short.
So we're just going to move some trays to make sure that the seedlings have even heights across the rows.
After some readjusting, we have more similar height seedlings on the same levels with readjusted light heights to give them the room that they need. And on this one, I still had ones with teeny tiny seedlings, so I lowered that end of the light, so that's why it's at an angle. And they are all happily watered now.
So here I am thinning out the seedlings. If you sow your seeds into one solid tray of soil, you may not need to do this and just separate out the seedlings at planting time. However, I don't have good luck with this as I usually damage the roots. So here I am thinning them out and leaving just one seedling in each block. I try to leave the tallest, straightest seedling that's towards the center of the block. And here are the seedlings after being hardened off on the front porch. Hardening off seedlings is when you acclimate them to being outside and harden off the cuticle of the leaves. You leave them outside for just a few hours a day in a sheltered location. Eventually, you move them outside into a less sheltered location with more direct light for just a few hours a day and gradually increase that to being outside the entire day. Moving back outside to the garden, there are seeds that I always directly sow and do not start indoors. Here I have lettuce and kale already started, and in my hand I have carrot seeds and radish seeds that I'm about to sow. Carrot seeds are extremely tiny, and I like to just go straight with them into the garden. They are notoriously hard to germinate, so I don't like to mess with them once they've sprouted. Radish seeds I always sow into my gardens because they're known for being good for the soil in your garden and to help break things up. They're just a good thing to grow, and they grow so quickly and easily. Don't bury the carrot seeds, just lightly press them in. The lettuce bed is doing so well. This is crisp mint lettuce that I got from Seed Savers, and it's absolutely delicious. Here's kale, and here's some other varieties of lettuce. I planted radishes and some carrots in between. So a lot of the carrots are finally starting to put out their true leaves, and they're growing slowly. I've already harvested a few of the radishes, but they have these fat frilly leaves. There's a tiny one that's ready to go. It is time for me to pull out about half of these lettuces and sow some new lettuce seed into the garden, directly into the garden. That way we can have continual lettuce. That's how lettuce works. It doesn't love hot weather, so it has a very short lifespan in the hot weather. I do plan on putting some shade cloth over this, but we haven't gotten that project done yet. So that will extend the availability of the lettuce through the hot months. But you do keep the seeds sown, every 2 to 4 weeks so you can have some new lettuce. When we harvest the lettuce, we like to harvest it the outside leaves and leave the inside. So with these outside leaves, we could come in and just break these off at the base. That wasn't a good job. And then leave the inside leaves, and they'll keep on growing for us. There we go. And then I could take that in for a nice lunch, and those leaves will keep on growing. But at some point, their lifespan will just end, and the plant will be done. So it's good to keep resowing seeds to make sure that you still have lettuce to come back for. Time to transplant. So once your seedlings have gotten big enough, they at least have 2 to 3 sets of true leaves, and you've let them harden off, which means you've let them acclimate to the sun slowly and to the air. You put them to a shaded spot, and then you move them to a sunny spot. and for part of the day, and then you leave them out there for a day, and then you increase their tolerance, then you can transplant them. So tomatoes, you want to transplant really deep. Most plants you want to transplant into the ground at the same level, but tomatoes, you actually want to transplant them up to here. If this was taller, but it's not, if it was taller, I would transplant it up to here. Some people actually even lay their tomatoes on the side and transplant them up this way, and the stem at an angle, and the stem will grow up. The reason being that everywhere where the stem touches the ground is going to make a root. So you're going to get a stronger, more well-fed plant by planting it deeper in the ground. So my seedlings aren't that tall, I didn't get them that deep, but it's good enough for now. I was impatient and didn't want to wait more. You want to get them watered right away. Once everything is in the ground, I have not. And my seedlings are paying the price for that, so I've got to work on this irrigation system and get it working. Okay, so let's go ahead and plant a seedling. I guess I have to replace a tomato plant anyway. So this is my tomato seedling. It's not very big, but it's what I have, so it's going to go in the garden. Now, a lot of times they're going to be sold in pots that are compostable. This is supposed to be a compostable pot. This is a cow pot made from cow manure. I'm really excited to use this. This is how I sold my seedlings. And I think it would be completely compostable. But my rule of thumb is to not trust that it is. So if you want to put your plant in the ground in this pot, make sure you tear off the bottom and make sure the top is completely submerged under the depth of the soil. The reason being that if any of this pokes above the soil, it will wick out the moisture. Oh, I have a little helper. So you want to make sure that this is completely below the soil. You can tear off the top, and you want to tear off the bottom so that the roots can expand. I'm just going to take it out. I take out my seedlings whether it's a compostable pot or whether it's a plastic pot. This part is the easy part. I just take my trowel and make a hole. I do have some cardboard under this mulch to act as a weed barrier. And here I'm trying to show how beautiful and dark and loose and rich the soil is. It does take time to build up your soil to this level. Here I am putting that tomato plant in as deep as I can. I will be coming back through and cutting off those bottom branches. You don't want them touching the soil. That increases the chances of contamination and disease. There are some things that I just directly sow. I don't start indoors and transplant. Those would be, I like to sow my beans outside because they start so easily. But especially peas, because they don't really like to be transplanted. They don't like their roots disturbed. I'm really late planting peas. These peas should have gone in March at the latest. So I think this will be just a week first planting, and then I'll come back through the later part of summer and do a second planting, and those should do better with the fall weather. So my beans, my peas, and my corn. I don't know if I have any. They're right here. My corn I like to directly sow too. They particularly like warm soil. So you definitely don't want to leave them in any condition where it might be cold and too wet. So I'm going to go ahead and sow these. Now these are all bigger. It's bigger than like carrot seeds or a lot of the seeds I started inside. And these will tell you how deep to plant them. Most of these like to be planted about 1 inch deep. To do this, you can just use a pen, you can use a finger, you can use whatever, but I just love this. It's the name of it is escaping me at the moment. Dibble, a little vegetable dibble. So here's my 1 inch. So I just love to use this to get my beans planted at the right depth or to check a depth, and this just makes it go really fast, especially because I have cardboard underneath this mulch, and the point was that it was going to hopefully keep the weeds down, and I think it's been mostly successful. If I could show you a bed that we had left, I just barely finished weeding, but you would see that this has really helped keep down the weeds a lot so far. But so this is especially good for poking through that cardboard. Okay, something else I didn't think of to use were really big field stakes in my garden. I know A lot of us want to use the small markers that plants and seedlings come with, or popsicle sticks or what have you, but all of the garden plants grow really big, really big. Tomatoes, indeterminate ones, grow super huge and bushy. Squash, the beans, everything just grows ginormous, and your stakes are, your little markers will get hidden. So field stakes are what I like to use, and they're wood, so they can be reused year after year. So this year I just crossed off old names that I didn't need and wrote on the backside, and we're good to go again with these. Beans really take no time to come out of the ground, which is why they're one of the seeds I like to just direct sow. Still waiting on the peas, but it really doesn't take long. So the drip irrigation needed a little bit of work. This piece had broken and needed to be replaced, and miraculously most of it worked out just great. So I'm doing a little irrigation check. Probably could put some tape on that one. And I set each bed up with an off valve, so I turn the water off to these onions. But even when I turn that one off, it still keeps on flowing to the next bed without interruption. Something else I like to direct seed in the garden are my herbs, like this chamomile that now reseeds itself. Every year it comes back thicker and stronger, and it smells amazing. I hope you're having good success in your garden and with the next steps of taking your seedlings out to your garden if you haven't done that already. Happy gardening, and I hope you're looking forward to your harvest already. Let me know if you have any questions. Another one that I love to